Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to another week here on the Patterson Report podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. Little bit of a late night edition of the Patterson Report podcast. As you can tell, I am just getting home from work. But the content's got to go out. The show must go on. I admittedly slept through last week's. I was
Partying
getting
too hard. Partying too hard. Flag
I
on
was
play.
getting my body ready for what it was about to go through on the Parkway on Friday, and I was asleep by 8:30 just because I knew I was heading into the front lines of Vietnam, and I had to be at my best. Well worth it. Well worth it. We'll get into what Super Bowl kind of meant more because I think there's some interesting takes about it. What I will say, judging parade for parade, Philly showed out in a completely different way this parade than they did in 2018. I mean, 18 was amazing. At the time, I couldn't fathom anything bigger than that. It was probably Philly's 2008-esque in size, definitely more intense because it's Eagle fans. But it was big. This one was a whole different world. I mean, in 17, 18, everybody was along the parade route and you could fit. This time, if you look at the overhead shots, people are down the side streets where you fully cannot see the floats. You just want to be out there. I'm not a mathematician. If I had to guess, this one got at least 15-20% larger than the last time we won it.
We still haven't gotten a number yet, by the way. So
The estimate that I've heard floated is 1.27.
ridiculous. Isn't that 4 times the Chiefs parade the year before?
It could be that number. I don't have.
I believe it was 300,000, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check myself right now.
It was such a proud moment for me for Philadelphia because I mean you get so much shit. You hear all the narratives and all whatever. I was there. We haven't done a podcast since we won. So I watched the Super Bowl on Broad Street. So I was there for the block party immediately after, and then went back into the city for the parade. And I gotta say, it was sheer joy. Obviously people doing dumb shit, like guys doing donuts, firing fireworks at each other, but there's no malice behind it. Like, it's just people trying to find some way to express this sheer, unadulterated joy that this football team brings us. And that's just, I don't know. When everything else sucks everywhere and you see just like millions of people come together and just like jubilation, it's pretty sick.
It was a really fun party. I didn't get to go this year, but I watched it all. Man, Q's too funny.
Yeah,
that might be the best. That might be the best Go Eagles we've ever gotten. It's up there from anyone.
Yeah. It was special. Have you seen Wicked for one, the movie?
Anyway, I went to the theater. Dude, the closest theater to me is like 45 minutes away. I don't go to the movie theater.
Okay, there's a song in it about the Emerald City, and it's about them going to this.
I know that one.
City and all, and then somebody dubbed that over a video of Eagle fans pulling a stoplight out of the ground and passing it down Broad Street.
I've seen it.
It was pretty great.
I was on TikTok for a solid day that Saturday, just watching everything go down. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad Nolan Smith made it home.
Because is he the first athlete to get escorted to the podium? Like, he got put in a police car and driven to the end of the route.
It was he's the first I know of. I know Brady, when they were tossing the Super Bowl between boats, I know he got really, really close, but I don't think he got there.
No, Nolan Smith was a problem. Quinyon Mitchell was a complete liability, but he was having a good time. Like, every picture I see with him, he has a different sign in his hands.
Like, my gosh. So his Coop one.
The Billie Jean.
The parade attendant. I saw a TikTok of someone making it.
That was great, dude. The Billie Jean.
That was my favorite sign.
And then them getting introduced as the Exciting Whites was so cool. Like, they just know how to do it.
I thought they were going to sing the Cooper DeJean is not a safety song.
Dude, it would have gone nuts.
When he did the speech, I mean,
the kid who wrote it reached out to the Eagles to perform it at the parade, and I get why you can't do it because probably copyright or whatever. But dude, the place would have gone nuts.
It would have been absolutely insane. I mean, the team didn't make it out there without their fair share of wounds. I mean, Cooper DeJean got a cut with his Bud Light chain. Howie Roseman ate a beer can in the face.
Oh, God,
I think it was it Grant Calcaterra's girlfriend got a beer can to the top of the head.
Yeah, like because from a bird's eye view, what would happen is because we were throwing them to guys on the bus, like, and maybe Dallas Goddard was the culprit for Mr. Calcaterra, but he'd be leaning over the side going like, throw me beer, but there's not clear who you're talking to, and there's a crowd of 4,000, 5,000 of us, so we all just started hucking beers at him. So I can completely see where, if there's 20 full Miller Lights coming at you, you only got two hands. It is a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, at least Howie's got a cool scar and an excellent speech, man. When he went up there and said, I bleed for this city, I can only imagine how crazy it was.
Mel Kiper said today on ESPN that he's a Hall of Fame GM, and I think he's 100% right. I don't know what more Howie's got to do. I mean, to have a Super Bowl team, to build a team that wins a franchise's first Super Bowl, tear that team down, and then in less than 7 years be back for another Super Bowl is astounding.
And it's not with the quarterback he drafted second overall the year before the first Super Bowl, either Super Bowls.
Carson
Wentz kind of deserves credit for getting them part way there in the first one, but Nick Foles finished the job. So it's one of those things where Howie's already there in terms of GMs. I thought he was there before this. He's well there now.
Yeah.
Like what he does, I was reading a little bit into it. I don't have like the exact, numbers and whatnot, but for the Eagles spending as much cash as they do, the recent salary cap information that came out with a raise,
we're getting
and the new projected TV deal,
$22 million more.
Yep. And the projected TV deal is going to hit in 29, I think. And that's right when Jalen Hurts' void year is hitting 100 mil. So Howie and Jeffrey Lurie have this all mapped out. They know what they're doing. I mean, I have full faith in whatever they do at this point, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But we do have to talk about which one means more. I floated this before the game.
And I thought you were nuts.
You thought I was absolutely insane. I was like, I think this might mean more just everything surrounding it. I was quoting TikToks, get a little in my feels, with this team. This feels so much better, man.
I don't see. Here's the thing. I see your point now, and I've come a lot closer to the middle. I don't think anything for me will top 18 because it felt. And here's why. One, leading up to it, it felt so impossible. And when you're talking about kind of getting in your feels and whatever, and like the way I look at this Eagle fan community and like family or whatever that it kind of has become, you think of all the people that didn't ever get to see one. And like it makes you that much more appreciative that you're watching it with your own eyes. And, I remember the stories of people like, bringing their parents' urn to the parade to like.
Just means more, man.
Yeah, it was like that Super Bowl was for the current fan base, the fan base before us, the fan base before us. Like it was just it meant so much more. And then you think after that Super Bowl, you and I said it a ton. When you go through the Sixers heartbreak, the Phillies heartbreak, like you go through all those moments and you think, imagine if we didn't have a Super Bowl, if you were still waiting for that first championship. So that's why that one will always mean a little bit more to me because of the buildup. I do understand this one where I think this city adopted this team more than any other Eagle team in recent memory. You wanted it for Jalen. You wanted it for Nick. You wanted it for Howie. Like, there's so many of these guys that, like, God, Saquon. They just deserve it. Yeah, Saquon, CJ, GJ. Like, there were so many dudes in the team where you're like, I'm so glad he got one. So I do get that perspective.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it comes in as scouting a little more. You remember our pre-shows before the draft last year, how astronomically high I was on Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and then to see them turn around and win a ring with your favorite team the first year, dude, it just feels so good, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's just an extra layer. Like I think I was like in the 99th percentile of, hey, this will feel good, like better.
Mhm.
before the game. Now I feel like I'm like the 80th or 85th because I see everyone like going around like, okay, this one's sweeter. Like now they've officially gotten it.
Yeah, like I said, the team I think people adopted. Like Jalen, I mean, his relationship with Philadelphia is whatever it is. Like, he's always going to have that where people are going to hate him until they love him again. That's just what it's always what him and Philadelphia are going to be. But for people that really love the team and watch every week, it was so cool to see him finally get vindicated. Like everybody, what can't Hurts do? He can't do this. He can't do that. He won't lead you here. He won't win the big one. And to see him not outduel him, take Pat Mahomes' lunch money on the
Again.
biggest stage, and then him get to do that walk down Broad, holding the trophy. I do get that. And then that video of Nick at the post game party, like screaming, like all these people keep talking all this shit about me. Like, it was great to see some guys get it. Mekhi Becton crying when they won it.
Yeah.
Like, I do get that side of it now more than I did before.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Mailata, I mean,
yes.
Speech of the parade, maybe. I knew he was gonna pull out a singing voice.
Yeah, his was really good. I'm trying to think who else had a really, really good one. The speech of the parade's the tough one. The speech of the Super Bowl week, I personally think might have been Saquon Barkley. It was short, sweet, but it's kind of how I think we as fans kind of felt. The more you watch the tape, they can't fuck with us. Like they haven't seen a team that good, and it was on display on Super Bowl.
Are you talking pregame?
Yeah, when they had the captains talk the night before.
I'm gonna give it to Lane Johnson.
Yeah, Lane was another good one. When they wore those shirts and shit.
They wore the shirts, 0 sacks. So I mean, it was always there. Like now looking back at it, the media, they didn't like the team, but like the advanced stats, I brought that up a couple of times this season with DVOA. Eagles defense after the bye was number 1 from week 6, my bad, or week 5. I forget when the bye was. The bye was week 5, right?
We went into the bye 2-2.
So it was week 5. Okay, so week 6 on. I'm forgetting already. Week 6 on, they were number 1.
Yeah.
Like the defense flipped the switch. Coop was the big ad, in my opinion. I don't know why I'll dedicate some time to that in the offseason, how NFL teams devalued the slot as a position and they shouldn't have. They're going to do it again, but
well, Coop was hurt. That's why he didn't play the first 4
I'm
weeks.
talking about in the draft in general, why Cooper DeJean fell to 40. He was hurt. That's why
his end game. You would know better than me. I could be wrong. His end game isn't as a slot guy though. I mean, when Slay eventually moves on, you assume he'll move outside.
I don't know if you want to right now. I remember I was big on him playing inside and outside when I was doing my
it won't
scouting.
happen next year. I assume Slay's back.
I don't want to pull him from the slot corner. He's just so good. He's Vic Fangio's defensive kind of weapon where he just moves him around.
Yeah.
So
then you got to go. We'll get into that. I know. I got to watch how close I get to the draft with you because I know I could be opening a can of worms.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the NFL's devaluation of the nickel corner position in a month or 2.
Yeah. At the end of every Super Bowl, there's always a brain drain, and it happened to us way worse after 18, where you lose everybody, which sucked. But this year we knew we were going to lose Kellen Moore. I feel like leading that weekly up to Super Bowl. I am a little bit surprised that he decided to start his head coaching career in New Orleans with an absolute dumpster fire situation. You have some talent, yes, absolutely. You're in cap hell, and you're not good enough right now. So I am a little bit surprised that he chose to take that opportunity. But hey, I'm happy for him. He emptied the clip in that Super Bowl. He did the opposite of Jonathan Gannon, so shout out to him. He took our QB coach, was it Nussmeier, with him, which kind of fucked up, but I get it.
That was expected.
Yeah. So
I saw that one coming. I just hope he doesn't take Parks with him for the DC job. I don't know if Brandon Staley officially got that yet. I'll have to look into that.
I haven't heard anything.
So, before the Super Bowl, I'm like, why would he do that? I was on that side with you. I was saying, okay, what's the point? Why? And then you look and you see Bobby Slowick, who was one of the hottest names. You're back, Houston offensive coordinator, gets fired, and now he's with the Dolphins as an assistant offensive coach. So with that, and there's only 30. Point. There's only 32 head coaching spots, and the money is a significant pay bump. So I don't blame him at all. Thank you for everything. You're a legend. So went out on top.
To the Bobby Slowick point, I do think it's a little bit apples and oranges, though. We were enamored with the Texans, but they grossly outperformed what they were supposed to do. I mean, that O-line was ass then. It was ass last year, and it finally caught up to them.
I mean, when 2 of your top 3 wide receivers rip their legs to shreds, it's just there's nothing you could do about it. Hopefully they come back, but I understand that it's what can you do, honestly? So
no. So now we're left with Kevin Patullo taking over the OC job. You and I haven't talked about this once, actually. This will be kind of fun. When it first came out, my gut initial reaction was, oh, shit.
Agreed.
Here we go again. It's Brian Johnson 2.0. And I haven't completely left that boat. It's still a part of me. What I will say I appreciate is I'm not 100% sure going any other direction was in the Eagles' best interest either. At a certain point, Jalen is going to have to go to therapy with how many signal callers he's had in his career. If I'm not mistaken, this is his 7th in the last 8 years or something ridiculous like that. So for continuity purposes, I do get it a little bit. Kellen Moore got a really good season out of Jalen. A.J. Brown did an interview today where he kind of explained the offensive flow and how big a part Patullo was in that. He wasn't the guy in the helmet calling the plays, which scares me to death because Brian Johnson and I think Nick Sirianni will be more inclined to interject, whereas Kellen Moore, I think, was left completely alone to run the offense. But I do like the fact that Jalen has some consistency. So I guess for me, the jury's out. I would say right now this is like a B- higher in my opinion. But I'm curious to see where you land.
There wasn't many candidates left. I mean, there's a couple QB coaches out there. Rams, Vikings come to mind. Maybe we could have hired them away. They didn't have play calling experience either. So might as well go with someone in the building. I think one of the big things in the offense this year was Jalen's checks. He'd check into a run and Saquon Barkley would rip it for 80 yards. He's very smart pre-play. And you know who didn't let him do that? Or at least there's video footage of him not letting him do that out there? Jason Kelce.
Yeah, he was making pre-play reads.
It's out there. So who knows what rift that was and what had to play at the end of the 2023, downfall that was. But I'm kind of with you. I'm C+ B- range. I'm cautiously optimistic because if he repeats it again, they're just gonna get another head coaching job and leave. Probably.
That's the bitch of it. How do you avoid this? You really you can't. It's a victim of your own success.
Did you see the one proposed? He was like, "Walk with me here," and it's Patullo gets a head coaching job. Shane Steichen gets fired from the Colts, and then it's Steichen and Fangio for the foreseeable future. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be down. I also saw somebody pitch Frank Reich as QB coach. They didn't go that direction. I don't remember who they brought in, but they brought in a QB coach.
Young guy.
Or passing game coordinator. So whatever the hell they're calling it now.
I'm happy Statland, remains all of his titles. Obviously, that was going to happen no matter what. But
he's locked up. What the hell is this guy? Eagles and Avenue pass game coordinator from the Dolphins. What the hell is this dude's name? Parks Frazier.
Yeah, that's what it is. I was confused because our defensive coordinator's or secondary's coach.
Yeah. So the offense is set.
The Parks, yeah.
And look, you mentioned it a little bit. This with Fangio running the defense and all the talent that is still here, this team's always going to be fine. I think Kellen Moore did a very good job this year. I think we'd both be looking at 2024 through rose-colored glasses if we pretended like it was some virtuoso level performance by Kellen Moore. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Feed Saquon, give Jalen confident throws, don't turn the ball over. And he did that well. It wasn't this, mind-blowing offense, but it didn't need to be. So maybe Patullo doesn't need to be the best offensive mind you ever seen. Maybe he just needs to play to his strengths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, Kellen Moore was this close to becoming the interim head coach, I feel like. There was a moment in time in the beginning of the season against the Saints game when everyone thought, hey, the Eagles are going to lose this, because they couldn't score a point. And this was, this was the pre-hype Saints where they scored 100 points in the first two games. So, what happens if you lose that game? Dallas Goedert doesn't make that huge play. Kellen Moore is the interim head coach. What happens? Like, where do we go from there? There's no Super Bowl.
Well, that's why Kellen took this job. He'll never admit it, and he and Sirianni turned out to have a good relationship. Kellen took this job because he thought there was an outside chance that Nick got canned. Let's just call that what it is.
After that Week 2 Falcons collapse, I feel like Kellen Moore had to be thinking, okay, there might be a chance I get this job.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he did. He won a Super Bowl, and it
played out
off in New Orleans.
It played out fine, but I do feel like before we depart here, we have to talk about free agency real quick because there's a lot of key Eagles that are projected to probably leave. You have Milton Williams.
There's no way we're going to be able to talk about that quickly.
I know.
So I'll pose it to you
okay. Real quick.
Who do you think is definitely gone?
Milton Williams, Josh Sweat.
Both.
I think both are gone. I think Bond is 100% coming back, and I think Becton, from what I've been hearing, is leaning coming back.
Yeah, I saw that Shefty report. I really thought he was going to cash in.
I read about it. He's been on a bad organization for a while. The Jets weren't as good when he was there. He wants to be on a winner. Yeah. So what? He sacrifices, a couple million to be in a good environment that he loves with the coach that he really likes, and Jeff Stoutland, who improved his career a ton.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, he's been
Milton
a great
Williams
guard.
Is so fucking gone, dude. Did you see him wearing he was wearing his agent's merch?
Dude, I don't even blame him, man. He was excellent.
Go get a bag.
How he's so good. He accounted for this already. Moro Ajomo had a great Super Bowl, a great postseason. He's ready to take that step. The draft's loaded, and I'm not going to get into detail, but it's loaded at that position. We assumed this was going to happen. I didn't think the number was going to be as big as it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to, especially with the cap increase, the Patriots have $134 million cap.
He might get a Hargrave-esque kind of deal.
It's going to be nuts. So I wish him the best. Philly legend. We love him here, but he's gone. You can't bring him back.
Sweat's the question mark. I think I'm with you that Milton Williams is 100% gone. I think there's an outside chance you're able to retain Sweat. I don't think his value outside the building is as high as it is here because he's shown flashes. This year, he was great. He was unplayable last year almost.
It's just what can you get out of Bryce Huff in year 2 of that huge deal? Because you're going to have that. And I know Nolan's there. Jalen Hunt, incredible Super Bowl. I mean, I remember we were talking way back last year, to bring up the draft again, where we were talking about how he called Daniel Jeremiah and said, "Hey, take him off your big board. I don't want anyone else seeing him."
Yeah.
So, I mean, enough's there at edge, and the exit pressers, as they called them, they were talking about comp picks, which really got the ears to fling up.
They know they're going to lose some guys.
Yeah, they're going to lose some guys, but if Sweat goes and Milton goes,
they're what, thirds?
I think there's an outside chance that Howie goes for Myles Garrett.
Well, we would get what? We would get thirds from that, right? As a comp.
We're getting thirds for both of them, as long as he doesn't bring anyone in, like other teams do mistakenly. Because I believe the Giants canceled out their Saquon comp pick.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who exactly they signed. It might have been Drew Lock, if I'm being honest. But
yeah, so if you can package together 2/3 and then maybe one,
he's going to cost more than that. But
it is. It might be a first.
It's insurance, though. And I trust Howie with thirds if he has to give up a first or a second to go get Myles Garrett, or first and second. But
yeah, and then I mean, I don't personally want him. I think the Eagles have a good thing going on without the right people in the locker room. The Chargers are planning on letting Joey Bosa walk. There's another answer at edge.
I'm not all in on Myles Garrett because, as you get to 30, as you move on from 30, your win rate and pass rush goes way down. I mean, Myles Garrett's insane, so
yeah,
he's at the upper echelon of that, but it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I trust the front office. I know you do as well. You have to at this point, right? Like,
it's so interesting, and we'll end it on this. I trust Howie with my life. I think he is great at two things, and his track record is a little bit spottier with another. He is sensational in the draft lately, especially with the late round. He sees talent when no one else sees talent, and that's a credit to the Eagles scouting department too. He also crushed at the top of the draft. Don't get me wrong. And he's reclamation projects. He does a great job on reclamation. On the big swings, sometimes he hits. Sometimes, he's a little bit spottier on the big swings. I personally, as a fan, would be okay if we went this offseason and didn't get Myles Garrett after just swinging and missing on Bryce Huff. That'd be a lot of assets tied up in two DNs, one of which is just ass. And the other one, like you mentioned, is on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, you can't bat 1,000 in an offseason. If you take out the Bryce Huff move, how you batted 1,000?
So it's just a back-to-back at the same position.
He batted like 950 this offseason. Yeah. Like, it was perfect. I mean, and you have the coaches to coach these guys up. And, the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie makes sure they're well compensated and paid, top-end money for their positions when they're a fantastic coach. So, like, this organization's all in line, and, we'll get to the draft eventually because, like you said earlier, who knows how much we'll be talking about the Sixers.
Yeah, it'll be we'll shift into Phillies mode for a while, and then we'll dot in some Eagles as the draft approaches.
Yep, and then we'll probably do one for free agency as well when that kicks off because I'm pretty sure Milton's going to sign quick, and I'm pretty sure Josh Sweat's also going to sign quick because if they're lobbing out third round compensation picks, projections, they're going to be the top two deals in free agency. So like they're going to go quick. A lot of teams have money, and just got to respect they made a ton for themselves in that Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
You watch that Super Bowl and you're like, okay, like they're making money here, and you got to respect it. But I think they're both going to get thirds now. That's where most people have them. That's where I have them. T. Higgins getting franchised was a big one because now he can't leave via free agency, and he was going to be like kind of the roadblock, that free agency that might get 35 to 30 to 35 million a year, which is going to be more than Milton and Josh Sweat would get. But now that he's off the table, I think Milton and Josh are going to get the most money up there with Sam Darnold. We'll see what kind of deal he gets after his, late season debacle. But 2/3, and probably actually, I think the other two guys stay. So 2/3, I'll say.
All right. Well, here's hoping. But until now, we're just going to enjoy the Super Bowl for another week at least.
Gonna go buy some merch. All right, my bank account.
Next week we'll be coming up on the very first Philly spring training game. So we'll jump into some baseball next week, and then we'll circle back to the Eagles in the spring. But for this edition of the Pats and Report, I'm Brandon. That's
I gotta
Brian.
go get a new cup.
Go Birds.